something big and important, or nobody will remember you when you're dead.
Killian Maddox. When I say I haven't had a character from a movie disturb me, but yet intrigue me in such a way ever in cinema like this, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I truly mean this. Now, I know others will say there have been many other characters from other movies similar to this that do the same theme but better. And to be honest, that's not what I'm here to argue. My reason in making this video is simply due to personal reasons and how the character and themes hit home to me. At one point in my life, I was a personal trainer and I was obsessed with my physique, similar to the character Killian, although definitely not to the same degree as him. I also wanted to try to become a natural bodybuilder, so I would eat like one, taking in 3,200 calories of clean food and continuously comparing myself to other physiques. But as I got deeper into that world, I would notice a lot of dark truths about the bodybuilder lifestyle and would later abandon my aspirations when I started to begin grad school. I would occasionally think back to all the ways I thought about my ideas on health and my physique during that time period, and would sometimes cringe at some of the thoughts I used to have. Although I never let it interfere with my life to such a strong degree like Killian, I still would have some of those toxic beliefs to a smaller degree that would impact how I looked at myself and others. Then one day, about a decade later from my pursuit to being a natural bodybuilder, I hear about this movie called Magazine Dreams that was supposed to display a top-level performance by Jonathan Majors that will reignite his career. Look, Jonathan Majors, huh? You sure you want to touch on that guy? He's pretty controversial, Errol.
Hey, Professor Wright, we try and get to that YouTube ad, boy. Don't be messing this up.
Look, I hear y'all, but I'm not here to support or protest Jonathan Majors. This video is solely about the character he plays, and if you do not want to watch this movie due to your views on his case, then hey, I am not here to change your mind. But you should still continue watching this video that is not supported by anyone from the movie to support me.
Alright, bro. Just remember what I said. The bag.
Don't worry, big bruh. I got you. Also, before I start, there will be major spoilers, so if you don't want to hear them, this is your chance to click out of the video. Like I was saying earlier, the movie Magazine Dreams was supposed to reignite Jonathan's career due to his performance. The plot of the movie will be talked about and praised for its themes, which is how I would hear of the summary of the movie, and will become intrigued. Discovering that the movie is about a bodybuilder dealing with the dark side of the industry and the uncomfortable parts of manhood, due to my own personal experiences, I was compelled to watch the movie, and once it was available to stream, I would immediately watch it. After seeing this movie, I can honestly say I was uncomfortable. This movie by no means is a feel-good movie that you play 5 million times like Lion King. No, this movie wanted you to see the darkest parts of what obsessive drive can do to a person and put a mirror to your face while you sit in that discomfort with your beliefs. Well, at least for me, I had a mirror put to my face because, like I said, to a lesser degree, and I repeat, to a much lesser degree, I had some of these beliefs like Killian. So, I know I said the movie's uncomfortable, but I want y'all to get comfortable and have a seat. As for those who don't know who I am, I'm Errol, and you're now entering my space, where we will be exploring the character Killian Maddox from Magazine Dreams and how the perversion of masculine traits such as ambition and assertiveness can lead one down a dark path.
Alright, bro. I see you was protecting the bag. There was no glazing, buddy. So, we should be good. But just remember, the bag. Don't forget, protect the bag.
Like I said before, big bruh, I got this. Jeez. All right, let's start with the first 8 minutes into the movie. where you are given a quick and effective rundown of the challenges that the character faces and his mental state. Throughout a series of shots, we see Killian making multiple poses, looking like he's preparing for a bodybuilding competition, and is shooting himself up with steroids. There is also footage of him helping his sick grandfather stand up, indicating that he is probably the sole caretaker of his granddad. During these scenes, we hear him speaking with his therapist, and right out of the gate, we are informed that Killian has anger problems. We see a scene of him speaking of his frustration on living in a food desert. You could feel him trying to hold back from exploiting about his disdain that all that he has available is junk food. Although I get why somebody would be frustrated with living in a food desert, the way he speaks about it make you feel like the psychologist should not be asking this man any more questions. Also, in the first 8 minutes, this scene happens. Now, I have done many of pull-ups in my life and felt plenty of strain while putting resistance on my muscles, but those grunts were not from no pain, no gain. Those grunts are from stored up emotional pain and trauma.
Yeah, I don't believe steroids is helping with his anger.
Oh boy, Professor, you are absolutely right on that one. After this scene, we see scenes of Killian building up the nerve to ask a woman on a date, which is a positive thing. But then the movie starts to show us why Killian probably needs a bit more therapy sessions. The movie starts to lay out Killian's unhealthy parasocial relationship he has with his favorite bodybuilder. Then we shift to a scene giving us a deep look into his temper. Killian goes on to call a local painting company on how they have not properly painted his grandfather's house. During the first part of the call, Killian is being assertive and not backing down from the painter, trying to speak in the place of his sick granddad. I believe most people will say that being assertive in this situation is needed, and that it's wonderful that he is speaking up for his pawpaw. Unfortunately, the conversation starts turning south once the painter tells him the job is done and that his grandfather would have to pay for him to come back out there. This does not bode well with Killian, so he begins to cuss him out and tell him that he will split his skull open and drink his brains like soup.
Heaven Sabatsy!
Yeah, that is what Killian decides to say. Now, I've had my fair share of frustrations with people performing half-done services that I'd paid for, so I get it. But man, never to this point like this. The problem here isn't that Killian is frustrated. Hell, we all would be in that situation. But Killian lost control of his emotions and went from being assertive to a hyper-aggressive rage, which is seen further when, after getting off the phone, Killian drives down to the paint shop after hours, where he begins to bust the windows and destroy merchandise after breaking into the shop.
Damn!
Yeah, my man has officially lost it. And crazy enough, things continue to get more chaotic. While he is rampaging in the store, he starts to have significant pain in his abdomen, causing him to stop destroying the shop and begin to leave. When he drives off, the pain is so severe in his abdomen, he ends up crashing his car, losing consciousness, in the process of waking up in the hospital. Here, he finds out due to his steroid use, he has tumors in his liver that, luckily for him, at the moment is not cancerous, but if left alone will eventually cause his end. The MD proceeds to tell him that he needs to stop taking steroids and he will require emergency surgery. But you know what Killian said? No, a bodybuilder can't have a scar due to it not looking good to the judges on stage.
Oh no, but tripping.
Oh, I agree with you. He is definitely on one right now, but I actually really empathize with him on this one. You see, in Killian's mind, there is nothing more important than becoming a pro bodybuilder. It's his dream, and instilled in him by his grandfather is that you must be willing to do anything you can to achieve your goal because nothing in this world is given to you. I've heard similar words to this, especially as a former athlete, and I'm pretty sure many of you have heard this as well. Because of this, I truly understand Killian's ambition to risk his health for his goal. Hell, anybody who played a contact sport like I did can completely understand. Football, you risk CTE and all sorts of orthopedic injuries just for a possibility to play a game you love and even having the dream to make it to the league. I think many people would judge Killian for this decision, but how much different is this than Deontay Wilder saying, "I'm willing to die in a ring," or the countless other athletes that say they will put their life on the line for their respective sport? These sentiments are glorified in the sports world. And not only there, but business as well. Many will look at Killian and think he's crazy for saying he doesn't want surgery because it will interfere with his ambition. But this has been fed to him not just by his grandfather, but society at large. Men are taught to look up to the successful person that achieved his goal with talks of sacrifice and saying things like, "Who needs rest when you can sleep when you're dead?" Well, in Killian's case, he took those words to heart and is now willing to die for his ambition and be like his idol, Brad Vanderhorn. After what looks like a day or two worth of time passes, he's contacted by the young lady he asked out earlier. She tells him she was thinking about what he asked her and would like to go on a date with him. All right, my boy, pull some now.
Me and Mr. Killian might have more things in common than I thought. I too am a Casanova with the ladies.
Boy, you know you lie.
Hey, I'm serious. These digits know a thing or two about pulling them digits.
Yeah, I bet. But hopefully, Professor, you're not like Killian with women. Because this is the last good thing about this situation. Throughout the film, it is heavily implied that Killian has not been with a woman in a long time, possibly even ever. Due to this, he has a lot of dealings with, let's say, porn. His lack of dealing with the opposite sex is glaringly obvious during his date. Killian first meets his date at a dinner and the date starts off okay, a bit awkward, but nothing abnormal from most first dates. From there, it begins to evolve into playful flirting, but unfortunately, as the date goes on, it gets bad. Killian informs her that his dad is dead after a joke that he made and then proceeds to trauma dump on her on how both his parents are dead due to his dad killing his mother. And it only gets worse from there. Later, when his date tries to do a vibe shift, she asks him about who is Brad Vanderhorn, the person he mentioned earlier. This triggers him to go on a fanboy critique on how she does not know who he is. He then proceeds to go on a rant about how hard it is to be a bodybuilder and how you need to sacrifice everything to become one. In the middle of his rant, his date is clearly uncomfortable and tries to ask him about what type of music he likes. Killian ignores this and tells her he wants to be Mr. Olympia, then continues on his rant of becoming someone that the world will know. His date, clearly uncomfortable and scared, pulls a "I need to go to the bathroom" and dashes out of there, never to return. Killian, being informed by the waiter his date is not coming back, proceeds to order burgers and fries and starts binging to deal with his rejection, and later would go home to force himself to throw all that junk food back up. This day scene has so much in it to unpack. First, I want to discuss the date itself. Killian, to some degree, reminds me of many other young men who have not conversed intimately with the opposite sex in quite some time. At no point during the date does he ask her about her interests, and would question her on her ignorance of something very niche. Although his rant was over the top, it's not outside the realm of possibility. I could see a scenario where a guy is on a date questioning why this 25-year-old woman does not know who Goku is. Like, she was the target audience for DBZ. Not only is he not relating to her, he's not even catching her discomfort with him through her body language or even when she is trying to switch subjects. Granted, Killian kind of seems like he's on the spectrum. Even so, I know men, including myself, that ignore signs of a person wanting to check out from a conversation because you are so passionate about the topic that you skip past their body language and subtle hints to move on to another topic. It is important, especially on a date, to check yourself and try to read the room.
But the biggest concern with the date was not the lack of getting to know the other person or even the trauma dumping. The biggest thing was when he was going on his diatribe on what it takes to be a great bodybuilder and why he wants to become one. At this point, you realize that this is not about him being ambitious, but a man who is obsessed to achieve this goal for external validation from the world. You realize he just wants to be seen, which I can understand, but at what cost? That's the scary thing about people who are obsessed about a goal. They may be willing to sacrifice anything, their health, their lives, hell, maybe even the lives of their own loved ones. Which is why when he showed how obsessed he was to achieve his goal, his date ran for the hills. He's scaring the hoes. I would like to not refer to her as a hoe, but yes, that obsession is very scary, not only to his date, but to me as well. What makes this whole situation even worse is that he is binging food to comfort himself, then purging it back out at home. Bulimic practices are actually more common than people would know in bodybuilding due to the constant need to fit the aesthetic. It's a sad reality in the sport, and I'm glad that the movie touched on it. Sadly, after all this turmoil, things continue to go downhill for Killian. A few scenes later, the men who owned the shop that Killian destroyed found him, and they were not too happy. They proceed to throw him out of his car and jump him while beating him with a crowbar to a bloody pulp. And what did Killian do? Go to the hospital? No. Because he had a bodybuilding competition that he needed to win. He drives down to it, bloodied up and all. And once he hits the stage, he gives a few poses before he eventually collapses from his injuries. Again, his obsession and belief that one should push through no matter what is preventing him to address his health. The movie is continuing to show that mirror to us, saying, see, this is what pushing through no matter what looks like. Because when you see Killian take these sayings to their literal meaning, you realize just how insane it is that we glorify this mindset. Killian's troubles don't stop here. And after this, he has a down bad moment with a prostitute, gets fired from his job, lies to his therapist that everything is going well, and gets beaten up by the cops after being called on him due to threatening one of the men who jumped him at a restaurant. See, the part where he found his op is not too crazy. When I say on site, I mean on site. Oh, big bruh, this man Killian has had it and wants to catch everyone on site because he buys himself a semi-automatic and starts practicing his shooting.
Oh my, Errol, I don't think I like where this movie is heading.
Well, Professor, it doesn't go where you're thinking because even after plunging into the darkness, there's a ray of light. Do you remember how I told y'all Killian's idol is Brad Vanderhorn? Well, during the movie, he would write fan letters to him all the time and would leave his contact info in the letters. After all the BS he's been through, his idol finally reaches out to him by phone. And since he is in town, wants Killian to stop by backstage for a meetup. Honestly, I thought this was a troll, but the next scene you see Brad posing at a photo shoot and Killian is there starstruck, looking at the man he admires the most in the flesh. You can tell to Killian this is the greatest moment of his life. His body language and nervousness is like if I met The Rock when I was 10 years old. Brad praises Killian on his physique, which is the greatest compliment a bodybuilder could ever receive. After Brad asks Killian, so, you're my number one fan? And Killian replies with a giddy yes. The scene ends. Once we see Killian again, he has a look of confusion and almost look like he wants to cry. Then we look to the background and we see Brad getting out of bed butt naked, answering a call from his significant other. Killian leaves the trailer with a look of shame and disgust in himself. He would later try to call Brad multiple times, wanting to hear back from him just so he can probably know he wasn't used by his idol, but to no surprise, he never hears back from him. The thing that makes this even sadder is I don't even think Killian is gay. Nah, if he lay down once with a man, he gotta stay with a man. Hold on, big bro. Hear me out.
Killian's obsession with Brad was never sexual, nor when watching his naughty films did he ever choose male on male. He admired Brad so much that he was willing to do anything for his validation. And as we have seen with Killian, he is willing to sacrifice everything for his obsession, even his sexual preferences. Also, Killian did not look like he even enjoyed the encounter. He looked no different than a prostitute having sex with someone for the sole purpose of doing business. To Killian, there was no pleasure. He just wanted the person he looked up to like him. This brings me to another topic. It's fine to have role models that you find to be successful, but you should never obsess over them, especially someone you don't even actually know. Society tells men that we should idolize success, but success does not equal good character. You could be successful and be a terrible human being. The older I get, I see the curtain being peeled back on many of these successful people who are not someone I would even associate with. The only good thing about them is their success they achieved in their career, but the character is dog shit.
Whoa, arrow language.
Sorry, Professor, but like I was saying, some of the quote-unquote successful people do not have good character. For example, not only did Brad take advantage of Killian's obsession with receiving his validation, he is also cheating on his significant other. This is why I say to so many people, you don't know what these people do behind closed doors. The Diddy's, Bill Cosby's, and R. Kelly's of the world were all idolized at some point, and now look at them. Do not let someone's success let them have your blind trust. In Killian's case, he had to learn that lesson in one of the worst ways possible. Even though this moment was hard to see, I feel like this is a good moment for many of us men to reflect on. Even though the sex was consensual, it still didn't feel right. I feel like there are many women who have been in a Killian situation, and we as men a lot of times can't empathize because we are not usually in that position. If we are being honest, most men have heard from another man, either as a joke or they are being serious, that they like to get a girl after a breakup, funeral, or whenever she is emotional. But when you see it through Killian's eyes, with seeing how much of an emotional wreck he is, all I could think of is,
Brother, what's that?
like, how can you be so cool with getting sex solely because that person is an emotional wreck? As I said before, this movie is really placing that societal mirror on us and having us reflect on things. As I said before, this movie is really placing that societal mirror on us and having us reflect on the things that we normalize. After this situation, Killian has finally broke. He gets his gun he bought previously and finds a judge that humiliated him a while back. He holds him at gunpoint, then forces him to strip and pose like the bodybuilders he judges. Killian asks him if he sees him now and what he has become. The judge is terrified and Killian angrily yells, "Who is at the mountaintop now, huh? Who?" Then proceeds to leave the judge stripped down, crying in humiliation. The same humiliation that Killian felt by the judge comments on his physique. I know at this moment, Killian is trying to humiliate and gain power over him, but while watching this, to me, it doesn't even feel like he is truly referring to the judge. After all, Killian has been through a lot in the movie. It's clear when he is yelling, "Do you see me now?" He is talking to the world at large, the world that he feels looks past him every day. When he asks who is at the mountaintop now, that is him trying to have some feeling of power and validation that he was never able to achieve in his own life. We later see Killian going to Brad Vanderhoorn's show, and while he's posing, Killian starts shooting him.
Darn it, Errol, you told me this isn't going to go where I thought it was going. You lied.
Wait, let me finish, Professor. After we see Brad get shot, time goes back to before Killian shoots Brad, and it is revealed that Killian was just daydreaming. In reality, Killian just stares at him from behind the stage and decides to not shoot him.
Well, sorry, Errol, for not letting you finish your statement. I just didn't want to feel like you duped me, you know?
Don't worry about it. Plus, the way this movie has been going, I'm surprised it didn't go that route. Instead, we get a more positive ending with Killian going home to his granddad, emotional in tears, finally crying after all the events he has been through recently. After we see Killian discard his rifle and the steroids, we hear a monologue from Killian with him writing his final letter to Brad. letting him know that the only thing that matters in a man's life is how he is remembered. He also will continue pursuing bodybuilding, so the whole world will know his name one day. You know, even though we get to see Killian not give completely into his darker emotions by carrying out murder and even throw away all the drugs he was taking, I still would not say this is a happy ending. Judging by the ending dialogue, Killian still holds the belief that external validation from others will make him great. We get a little hope that he isn't as self-destructive to obtain this when he throws away his steroids, but he still wants to pursue a field that honestly is not conducive for him to change. If we are being real with ourselves, if you're trying to be an IFBB pro bodybuilder, you will need to take anabolic steroids. I know there's some teenagers saying, no, that's not true. But kid, I'm here to tell you, they are all on the juice. That doesn't mean that they're not working hard. On the contrary, you have to have some of the most ironclad disciplines to even be a low-level bodybuilder, but they are all definitely doing it. Steroids isn't cheating in bodybuilding, it's a requirement. And knowing this, you have to ask yourself, how long will it be before Killian realizes to be a pro bodybuilder, he will need to hop back on the juice. If he gets back on, he will be risking his life and will probably return to the level of aggression he displayed during the movie. Another reason why I feel like bodybuilding would be the worst thing for him to continue doing is because it literally reinforced body dysmorphia and his need for external validation. You are constantly being compared to other men's bodies, making you feel like you're never big enough or the striations are not highlighted enough. You are constantly looking for someone else to validate that you have the right body. I understand this because, like I said, I have my own pursuits to being a natural bodybuilder, which I found out many of them are on gear too. But in my pursuit, I would compare myself to others like Killian. Also, not thinking I was not even that muscular because I wasn't looking like the person who won the gold medal. And even today, I still don't see what others see when they say I am pretty muscular. Now, I don't look at myself in the mirror all day anymore, comparing myself to others, but I do have some distortion of reality of how I look. And if I have that, I know many young men are definitely experiencing it as well. Matter of fact, there are studies that show a rise in body dysmorphia in men due to social pressures and social media. Because we have many people flat out lying about taking steroids and making impressionable young men believe that they're just not working hard enough. So, like Killian, I would compare myself to others, but unlike Killian, I had a strong internal validation. I never took any steroids or went to the lengths of self-destruction to attain external validation. Killian did all this because he did not find himself valuable. Throughout the whole movie, all I heard Killian talk about is how he wants others to see him, but never how he should see himself. As I said in my Talk No Jutsu video, as men, we need to address our traumas head on in a real way and seek community. Now, to Killian's credit, he tries to seek community. So much so that he asked Google, how do you make people like you? We see Killian try, but he's too clueless on social norms and cues that he just lands flat on his face. I think this is what makes Killian's experience so relatable to many people. He is trying to connect with others, but is failing over and over. I do believe his social awkwardness is part of his difficulty to connect with people, but as I pointed out previously, during his date, his obsession for external validation is what's preventing him from achieving meaningful connection with people. This also leaves less virtuous people to take advantage of him by giving him a little bit of external validation. When you are able to validate your own self-worth, you will not need to seek the validation of others to feel like you are worthy. Someone can be socially awkward, but if they are able to have internal validation, people would be more willing to give them a chance. For Killian, bodybuilding will never be his salvation. All it has brought him is roid rage, an unhealthy obsession for fame, and enable his need for external validation. To truly find inner peace, he needs to unpack the trauma that he has experienced throughout his life that caused him to not love himself.
Bro, you saying some real stuff, I ain't gonna lie. I ain't about to get all emotional this time, but you spitting right here, bro. You spitting.
Thank you, big bro. And hopefully everyone has taken away something from this video that can help you or a loved one. Even though the movie is a highlight reel of traumatic moments, Killian is showing us how people like him think and what their needs are. The better we understand this, the better equipped we are to prevent or mitigate scenarios like this in the movie. For all of you who made it to the end of the video, thank you. And please like and subscribe to the channel. Hopefully I got to entertain you or kill some time. Again, this is Errol, and you're now exiting my space. See y'all next time.